Well, I've been working on the bike trying to get it going good. I put a new points condenser in, set the gap, 14,000, set the timing's spot on, check the centrifugal advance for proper advance. It's advancing correctly for the RPMs. It's just running too rich and it's stalling because of it. When I come to stops and stuff and just cruising along, it's blowing black smoke and running rich. So I figured out you can change these metering rods without pulling the carburetors. So that's what I'm doing. And I just changed this one. I lowered the rod one notch. I'm going to do them one notch at a time and hopefully get the engine running somewhat good so I can ride the bike. I mean, I can ride it, but my problem is it just stalls when I come to stops, and it just doesn't run good cruising at low speeds, and doesn't backfire or anything. You know, it doesn't seem to be running lean. It seems to be running rich. So that's where I'm at. So we'll just go carb by carb. Hopefully I can get this out with the frame there. May have to get a different screwdriver for that screw. Let's see, I got a little ratcheting one here. Let's see if this one fits in there. And we're just going to plug away at it and see if I can raise all these up. One click and then we'll start the engine and see how it runs, and hopefully it eventually runs good. And I can get this thing to where I can ride it. It's not ignition, like I say. The points are, the coils are new, the plug wires are new, the plug ends are new, the plugs are new. It's firing on all four. Does sound like it's missing a little out of the exhaust, but I think that's because it's running rich. You give it some throttle, it really blows black smoke, so that's why I'm thinking that I got to then I can undo I gotta bend these little tabs. Oops, I have a magnet here that's sticking to everything. So bend those little tabs back out so I can get a socket on the nut. Might need to get a little tiny screwdriver. Hang on. Let's see if we can't get these bent back over. And I'm not bending them back, I'm just leaving them open. And once I get everything, I think, to where I'm happy with it, then I'll go back and bend these tabs back up like that. I should have just left them when I put it together, but I thought it would be okay. All right, let me just get that thing off. Hang on, I need both hands. I can't hold the camera and do it. All right, I get that little tab bent away, and then I can take this bolt out. This holds the arm to the throttle shaft. And now that throttle shaft moves freely in there, as you can see. And I can pop this out of this after I loosen that, and then just lift this straight out. So let me bend those ears, get that loosened up, and then I can pop it off the shaft. I might be able to pop it off without loosening. Yeah, there. So that's the rod I gotta lower. That's the metering rod, and there's two screws down in here you take out, and then you can turn this inner piece. I don't know if I can show it in the video or not. Let me go over to my bench and set the camera up on something here. And I've been kind of keeping track of the numbers. That's the number, that's the throttle valve, correct number for the throttle valve. That's the number on the metering rod. I don't know if that's correct. The service manual doesn't really give you a lot of, these are the only specs it gives you. So that's the main jet, which the bike has. The air jet, that's what the kit came with, and that's what the carb kit came with. And it flooded out so bad, the air jet was, you could physically see, was larger, and these were slightly larger too. But it idles really nice with those jets changed out to the ones that were in the bike. That's a 2.5 throttle valve. That says 2.5 in there, so it's a correct throttle valve. And then it gives you the screw opening, which is the screw in the carburetor, which I had at 2.5, and it says 1 plus or minus an eighth. So I don't know. Anyway, let me get these screws out and I'll show you what you do to, hang on. All right. Guess the screws aren't falling out. One of them's still hanging up in there. There we go. Both screws are out. And you turn this. See how it's got a groove there? You turn it until this little slot there lines up with the groove, and then it comes out, and then you can take your metering rod out, and that's the clip. I don't know if it shows up or not. Let me take it out in some light. That's the clip. There's a bunch of grooves on the metering rod. I don't know how that shows up, but it's in the next to bottom one, which is really rich. And I'm moving them up one notch at a time. I'm only going to go a little at a time. See if it improves the performance of the bike. And, you know, I got to do something. If I turn the fuel valve off and let it sit there and run, after about 15 seconds, it really runs nice. You just, you know, it shallows out the fuel level. But anyway, I'm going to pop that clip off, raise it up one. I'm doing that to every one of the carburetors, and then we'll see how it runs again. See how that's one click down. And I don't know if you can see those numbers right there or not, but those are the numbers I'm looking at with a magnifying glass and writing down. Make sure all 4 of these metering rods are the same. Yeah, it'd be nice if they just put adjusting screws on the carburetor to where you could just turn them in or out to get the performance and not have to sit here and monkey around changing things like this to change the mixture, but that's just the way it is. Now I just dropped the metering rod back in. You can see I'm leaving those tabs pulled out until I get things right. I snugged up these, but I'm not going to run it a lot until, you know, I mean, I'll run it, and if it doesn't run good, I'll take them back apart and change them again. If it runs worse, I'll go the other way. If it runs better but still not good, I'll go some more, but there's no point in keep bending those. I'll fatigue. So I'm just going to put the tops back on and we'll just try it out, and when we get it right, I'll pop the tops off and rebend these things. No big deal. Got another one done. They're getting a little easier once I've been going through doing them, but I've just got to make sure those ears don't bind on the carburetor body. I don't want to stuck throttle line out on the road, so that's all good. Let me put the top on that carburetor and one more, and we're gonna test it out. It's kind of a pain to do this, but it sure beats having to take the carburetors off, that's for sure. All right, that's gonna drop down in there, so let me get this together. I need both hands, and then we'll button this up, put the tank on, and see how it runs. It's starting to cool off, so I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go out and ride. It's getting cold out. It was warmer earlier when I went to take it out and found that it just didn't want to go, so doing the same thing. So it wasn't the points condenser after all. I think it's all carburation. All the metering rods are up one notch now. Everyone's done. Wouldn't you think raising those rods would make it run more lean, wouldn't you? But it's not. It's running way richer. I don't know if I did something. See the black smoke coming out? I don't know. And it just loads up more and more as it sits there and then eventually stalls. It definitely made it worse, whatever I did there. So I don't know, I'm kind of at a loss. Usually moving those rods down leans it out. Maybe I'll take it apart and put them all the way up and see what happens. It's a bit of work to do that, so that might happen another day. Another thing I might do is shallow up the floats, because what really helps is when you turn the gas valve off and it runs a little bit. It's definitely worse now with those rods moved down one, so I guess, I don't know, maybe I'll pull the carburetors and completely go through them again. It's definitely running too rich. And the float bowls are like 20 millimeters. They're supposed to be 22. I think I might take one of these out, put a clear hose on and hold it up and see how much fuel is actually in the bowl. I took it out for a ride on the road, and it's just completely dropping a cylinder here and there. It's like it's ignition. See, cylinders are picking up and dropping off right now. So I think I'm going to check voltages at the coil and just check everything, see if there's low voltage running somewhere. Pretty close to the same temperature, but there's definitely an issue with there's definitely a miss or something. You give it the gas, and I mean, you stab the throttle and this thing will absolutely get up and go, and it doesn't backfire when you decelerate. And yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to start looking more at the ignition again before I do again more carburetor. I'm going to check voltage at the coils, make sure that I got 12 volts to the coils, make sure everything in the ignition circuit and this grip, I don't know how many times I've glued this thing on, it just keeps coming loose. I used what everyone recommends, and this is what I used, but it doesn't work worth diddly. So I'll have to find something else that'll work on that. I was trying to show how I check the float level. So you get the clear hose in there and turn the gas on, and it should be not higher than that joint. So the float level is good. You see how I move it? It stays. The bike's leaning over a little bit on the kickstand, but yeah, I don't think that's out of the norm for a float level. I think that's all good. We'll let the float drain out before I move my dish here. Alright, so I guess I'm going to check voltages. The battery's down a bit from all the cranking and starting it and stuff, so I got the battery on the charger right now. But yeah, I don't think all the floats are set the same, so they all should be pretty good, like right in that area. So I don't think it's the float levels. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Seems like the more I work on it, the worse it runs. And I might have to put those metering rods back to where they were, but first I want to check the ignition system out. It's like misfiring, dropping a cylinder, so I don't know what the deal is. We'll horse with it some more. So as I stated, I put new points in here because I felt like it was an ignition problem. It felt like cylinders were dropping off and picking up and dropping off and picking up. Usually when you have a carburetor, they either run rich or they run lean. They don't drop off and pick up, drop off and pick up. That's why I put points in points and condenser in it, and it's doing exactly the same. It's actually a little bit worse, but the timing's on right. Everything's set perfect. It was running really good when I first started it with the points and was setting the timing. But as it was running, it was starting to run worse. And then when I took it out for the ride and I turned on the headlight, it really ran bad. So I'm wondering if it's a low battery that's causing it. Yeah, the battery is surprisingly down. It had 11 point some volts when I started charging it. And then, well, maybe the charging system isn't working on the bike, so I cranked it up, and yeah, it is charging. But I think it's because I haven't brought the battery up in quite a while, and it may be a bad battery. That's the battery that was in the bike when I bought it. And so anyway, we'll charge the battery. I can't check voltage at the coils with a pretty low battery. So I'll let that charge overnight, and then tomorrow I'll check voltages at the coil. We'll crank it up, and if it runs good with the battery fully charged up, and I'll check the charging system again once the battery's fully charged. And but if maybe the battery's no good, I don't know, but it definitely doesn't seem like a fuel problem. It seems more like a ignition problem. It's it's still blowing black smoke out the exhaust a little bit, but that could be because of a weak spark or something too, So anyway, let me get the battery up, and then we'll fiddle with it a little bit more and go from there. I put a voltmeter. You can see the terminals there and there, and it was charging. It was like 12.8 volts when I was running at about 2,000 RPM, probably because of the amount. It's probably charging at its full. I think it's a 1.5 amp alternator. So it's probably charging at full output. As amperage increases, voltage decreases, and as voltage increases, your amperage, it starts charging up. Your amperage decreases as voltage increases. So I think the charging system's working. We'll get this all charged up. It's supposed to be cold tomorrow, so I probably won't get it out and ride it, but we'll get this charged up, and you'll see in the video I'll check the power to the coils and make sure, wiggle the wiring and everything. Make sure there's no issues with the wiring on the bike, because with new points and condenser and the timing set with the timing light, everything's spot on. Points are 14 thousandths. Timing is spot on, the F mark on both coils. I gave it the throttle, and the timing marks come to where they should for full advance at the correct RPM on the tach. I don't remember what it is now without looking in the shop manual, but it was spot on. And so I'm pretty sure that all that ignition stuff is good. Like I say, the coils, the plugs, the wires, caps, everything's new in the ignition system. So that's why I'm going to check the power to it. And we'll go from there. And if that all checks out good, then I'm going to have to, I've been cranking it, and I put the camera on it and was, working lights and doing all that stuff. So that, you know, that probably ran the battery down a fair amount. And then I haven't really ridden it. Really got to get the RPM up around, you know, preferably 3,000 RPM to get the charging system put out its max. At idle, it's probably putting out nothing. It's probably draining the battery from the lights running at idle. So, you know, that's just because these bikes just, you know, it has a 1.5 amp alternator. What can I say? And that's rated, I think, at 2,500 RPM. So, you know, it's going to take a bit of riding to charge keep the battery charged up. And I've put now 2.5 miles on it. Somebody was giving me the business. And I only rode it 1 mile and 7/10, but it was wet and rainy and it wasn't running right. And I just wanted, you know, you really can't just sit here and let it run in the garage or park. You need to put a load on the engine and run it a bit, you know, so if it's loaded up from idling, it cleans it out. And you need to run them on the road to really tune them properly. Or if you're lucky enough to have a dynamometer, which I definitely don't have. It took overnight to charge the battery. It was really dead, but I just checked the voltage at both the coils on the black with white, and they're both 10.36 volts, so there is a resistor. And I got 12.5 volts at the battery, so I'm assuming that it's a resistor. I wiggled all the wiring to see if it would change, and wiggled connectors and checked grounds and everything, and made sure the engine was no bad ground on the engine. I actually grounded the engine directly to the battery, and that made no difference. So I think we're just running a resistor through the system here to, I guess, help save the points. Well, didn't make any difference. Charging the battery, I think I'll put those metering rods all the way the other way, put them one click so they're at the bottom. Try it. I have nothing to lose. It runs worse now than what it did before I raised them up one click. So let me put them down, see what happens. Trying to hold this to where you can see it, but I moved it the opposite way, so it was one click. Well, when I just ran it, it was 2 clicks above the bottom where it is now, and it ran worse moving it up one, which lowers the rod down into the jet so it leans it out, and you clip it down further and it raises it up out of the jet so it richens it up. It would have been much easier if they had a screw you could just turn to adjust the carburetors, wouldn't it? But they don't. So anyway, we're gonna try and set them all there and see if that improves the performance. If it doesn't, I'll put them back where they were. Back to blowing black smoke now. I don't know if that shows up or not, but it's pretty black. And I checked for vacuum leaks. I took some WD-40 and sprayed it all around the manifolds here to see if I had a vacuum leak on both sides, and sprayed it around these, and no vacuum leaks appear to be anywhere. Sprayed it all around everything. So anyway, I'm gonna give up for now and do some yard work and fool with it another day. Turn the gas off. As the carburetor is burned out, it starts running better. it starts running better when it's starting to run out of gas. It's definitely a fuel problem. It's not ignition, because when it was missing and stuff, I was putting my timing light on each wire and the light strobe was firing off fine each time. So we got a fuel system issue, and I don't know, these are the bigger air screws. Maybe I'll put the smaller idle jets back in that came in the rebuild kit. I don't know, I'll fool with it some tomorrow. I got to do some other things today. I don't have time to spend the whole day on it again. I already spent one full day horsing with them, so we'll fool with it another day. Maybe some of you guys will have some insight on what I'm doing wrong. I'll post this video so you can see it, and then I don't know, we'll go from there. See what we can do to correct the performance issue. It's kind of aggravating, but you know, that's part of fixing things up like this. So let me put it inside so I can do some yard work around the yard. And then tomorrow it's supposed to rain all day, so I think I'll set these back to the original clip where they were, because it ran the best where it was. So tomorrow I'll set that back to where it was, and like I say, I'll change those idle metering jets, because once you get the R's up in this thing, I mean, it goes. When you're out on the road, if you lay into the throttle, this thing really goes. It's low speed, under 3,000 RPM that it has. So it's something in the idle circuits. Maybe there's something. I can't imagine all 4 carburetors have something blacked up, but it's all 4 carburetors, all 4 cylinders that are blowing black smoke and randomly misfiring, I think because the mixture is either too rich or too lean. But anyway, try and if you have some ideas, if you know anything about these, not just willy-nilly guess, or you know, but if you know about working on these and you have an idea of what it might be, leave a comment. Thank you for watching my video too.